adventure, perhaps. Not entirely sure. Cleveland, giving Adam a lot of props here, but Cleveland would not be proud of this particular look.
Really?
Yeah, it's time to clean it up. Just a little shave. You know what? If you
a
want
city known for its cleanliness.
Okay, okay. Look,
I'm on fire.
yeah. If you want to have a shaggy beard, that's one thing, but not in combination with that hat. It's just not okay. It's just not okay. That's all I'm saying.
9-0 would beg to differ.
You know what? You win. We will be underway here in just a moment. It'll be a force. It'll be Elvish Mystic. Round number 10 here from Miami.
So I think this is going to be a pretty tough matchup here for Boswell. He doesn't have a lot of interaction, and the interaction he has is not particularly fast. And that's not a place you want to be against Green White Devotion.
Looks like we have an attack here from Elvish Mystic. Yurchick with a forest. And it'll be a Sylvan Carry added. So he's got a little bit of damage to deal, and he's got some acceleration. We'll see what he can accelerate into.
Green White Devotion is very, very good at gumming up the ground, particularly this build with Mastery of the Unseen, which in conjunction with a lot of mana is pretty close to a lock against Obs on aggro.
Rashasha Death Dealer is the play there from Boswell. Has to take one from a copy of Manic Influences. There's a Nykthos from Yurchick. See if he's got a big threat like a Pelucranos here. And he does. So Yurchick will pass the turn back over to Boswell. Boswell will take a draw step. It's a copy of Boon Satyr. Boswell's build here of Obs on aggro a little bit more robust. Does have 3 copies of Boon Satyr, 3 copies of Burmaz, King of Oreskos. He'll, of course, be playing 4 copies of Siege Rhino. He has a Tasker as well. Removal spells, 3 Valorous Stance, 4 Heroes Downfall, and an Obs on Charm. He'll start the turn by sacrificing a Windswept Teeth. Down to 17 he goes.
This is also a matchup that's fairly play-draw biased. I think if Boswell's on the play here with this opening backed up by removal spell, is actually in fine shape. On the draw here, he's looking at best case scenario, he can get the Pelucranos off the table, but still not marshal an attack. And if Yurchick has some large follow-up play, Boswell is in roughly the same spot next turn. At least the Obs on Charm prevents the worst of it for the time being, because allowing Yurchick to untap with a Pelucranos and a Nykthos in play is all sorts of bad news, but this game's still not shaping up very well for Boswell if Yurchick has some big follow-up.
Well, let's see if Yurchick does have that big follow-up. That is the question. And the Green White Devotion deck is all about accelerating into a big payoff card, and now Green White Devotion actually has quite a few payoff cards.
Well, I guess the white, you get to add Mastery of the Unseen, and that is an additional big payoff card. It's a little awkward in this deck at times because there just is only so much white mana in the deck, so even if you have Nykthos and other things going on, you can only generate so many tokens, but you really don't need to generate that many tokens to get a huge edge.
Banished Light will take care of the Death Dealer, and attack here from 1 from the Mystic will bring Boswell down to 15, and that'll be Yurchick's turn. The Boss will take a draw step, turn number 4 for him. Does have a Temple of Malady in hand, also has, looks like Anafenza and a copy of Siege Rhino, so some powerful cards there. Not much of a surprise given the deck that he's playing. The question, of course, always is, does he have the mana to cast the spells? And it looks like this game he does.
And that's a pretty huge win here for Boswell that Adam did not have a large follow-up that play, turn that play just a Banishing Light. A reasonable bet that the last cards in his hand are mana or mana production.
There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. It'll become the bottom card. He'll have to take 1 to play this Anafenza. Down to 14 he goes. We'll pass the turn back over to Yurchick.
And Boswell had to make the decision between Siege Rhino this turn or the option to bestow a Boon Satyr the following turn. Went for the Boon Satyr route.
Courser of Crewfix will allow Yurchick to take a look at the top card of his deck. It's a Master of the Unseen. Mana Confluence will come in. He'll gain a life. He's now empty-handed. And he'll have to pass the turn back over to Boswell. Valorous Stance the draw here for Andy.
Valorous Stance is actually quite a large draw here, as Boswell needs to keep Yurchick pinned on mana especially with Mastery Unseen now in the top card. He gets to remove 2 Devotion for the Nykthos and potential land drops down the line.
And defense is going to come across here for 4. It looks like it might be Siege Rhino time now. And it is. So the boss is going to gain 3. Yurchick will lose 3. I go back Adam's way. Now, Master of the Unseen's a pretty big draw step here because it's really got some work to do this game.
Yes, a lot of catching up to do.
And Genesis Hydra, the top card of the deck, that can help too, even though Boswell does have a copy of Valorous Stance. Yurchick's going to deploy the Master of the Unseen. The problem here for Adam is he doesn't have a ton of white mana. You see, of course, Sylvan Caryatid is going to allow him to cast it. Now, Nykthos can actually generate some white mana here thanks to there being a Banished Light and a Master of the Unseen in play. So he can actually start a little bit, and he has the Mana Confluence too.
He might be able to finagle it. The problem for Yurchick in an immediate sense is that this Siege Rhino paired with Anafenza is going to grow a Trampler. Now, he does have access to Genesis Hydra next turn, which is a pretty big play. Boswell may be in a spot where he has to save the Valorous Stance to get rid of the Genesis Hydra and just live with Courser of Krufix being in play because the Genesis Hydra will simply be too large to attack through, even if the Courser is taken off the table.
He's hit another Rhino. Oh boy, that makes this game a lot more difficult. One Rhino I think Adam could beat. The follow-up Rhino I think is pretty tough. Yurchick down to 3. Boswell up to 19. Let's make it 18.
And Yurchick may just have to take a draw here, not use Mastery of the Unseen, and hope the Genesis Hydra yields something big.
Yeah, like and then the something big might just be Banishing Light.
Right.
Yep, he thought about manifesting, but he's going to have to just draw the Genesis Hydra. Top card of the deck is Courser of Krufix. I think we'll see a Nykthos activation here for green. It'll generate 4 green. 5 and 6. Even a 4/4 Genesis Hydra isn't very exciting. So I'll have to take 1 maybe and go down to 2 to make a 5/5.
I'm really impressed with Boswell's play. My instinct a couple turns ago would have been to Valorous Stance the Courser of Krufix and play Boon Satyr at the end of the turn rather than the Siege Rhino play. And it looks like this is shaping up to give him a kill slightly faster. It's a riskier play, but you know, my initial instinct was I'm worried about giving Adam too much mana, and Boswell felt like he could just play through this, and it's looking like he's going to be able to play through it.
Yeah.
Although this Genesis Hydra could muck it up.
Well, here is the Hydra. Boswell doing some counting here. Just want to see how much it's for. So we're going to see, I believe, 5 cards here from Yurchick. None of them all that helpful. I mean, Wishwood Elemental's not bad.
It's a lot of blocking.
Yeah. That's actually interesting because we're going to get to see and manifest here from Whisperwood. And if the manifest is something like an Elvish Mystic,
something that he can unmorph.
Yeah. Then he's going to get to gain a bunch of life, and that will be really, really helpful in this situation. Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, Voyaging Satyr.
We'll keep this in mind as well, that Boswell still has the Valorous Stance in hand. Most likely one of his large creatures next turn will be committed to blocking the Siege Rhino, and because of the way the trample damage works, if he removes the 1 blocker, it can be lethal. So Yurchick's going to have a really complicated block next turn to get out from under these Siege Rhinos. It's not going to be easy to do.
Top card of the deck is a land, so he's going to get to go up to 3. This is the important draw. Fleece Mainline.
That is huge.
That's one he can unmorph. Adam knows that, so he's going to trigger the manifest very quickly. He'll put that into play. We'll take a look at the top card. It's a Plains. We'll see if he wants to manifest or unmorph, excuse me, right now, because if he does that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 life would be gained. Looks like he's going to wait, though, and we'll just go back Boswell's way. Again, Valorous Stance, the card in Boswell's hand. Boon Satyr as well. Both play a role in things here. We'll see how Boswell wants to attack. Yurchick at a virtual 9 right now.
There are still ways for Yurchick to mess up these blocks. Hitting a Fleece Mainline here is a huge deal for the Master of the Unseen trigger, but this is still a losable game. He has to play around a lot of stuff here. It's not, I'm not sure if something like Valorous Stance is necessarily going to be on his radar even. You know to play around Abzan Charm in the spot. I suppose you're likely to play around Hero's Downfall regardless, which naturally allows you to play around Valorous Stance.
You're going to play around a removal spell, right? In some capacity, a removal spell for a large creature of yours.
Yep. But that Fleece main line was a huge card to hit.
Yep. 3 toughness, too. Pretty big deal as far as the blocking and the trampling is concerned. It was just a really good hit.
Genesis Hydra at 4/5 into land for Courser into Fleece mainline is about the best sequence that Yurchick could draw up there. Maybe Banishing Light's better than Whisperwood Elemental, but I don't think so.
I don't think so, Ed. And now watching it play out, I don't think so. So the boss has got some math to do. It was easy when he said go. He was very far ahead. But the Genesis Hydra for 5, hitting a Whisperwood Elemental. Windswept Heath coming into play, triggering the Courser, and now Fleece Main line being turned face down, which is conveniently easy to turn face up thanks to the Elvish Mystic and the Sylvan Carry added. Means that 6 life would be on the way here for Yurchick. So again, he's at a virtual 9 right now. Boswell still pretty far ahead on the board, but Yurchick is catching up quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like the most likely scenario going into last turn here was that Andrew was going to be untapping and attacking for lethal. And now things have gotten quite a bit more complicated.
It's going to be a Valorous Stance that goes after Genesis Hydra. Yurchick's going to let that go.
And Boswell wants to exile that instead of the Whispered Elemental because he doesn't want the Whisperwood to just be sacked. That mucks up combat.
Well, it's important to know that it's destroy, not exile with Valorous Stance.
Destroyed. So Yurchick could sacrifice Whisperwood Elemental in response to a Valorous Stance, and now there's that trigger floating around the whole turn, which makes combat quite a bit more messy. So because Boswell's attacking with all these tramplers, the Whisperwood Elemental might have to get engaged in combat and just allow combat to occur, not be sacked, because I don't think Boswell can beat a steady stream of manifest creatures plus the mastery of the unseen at this point.
And there's also the text that comes into play with Anafenza here too. Whenever a creature goes to the graveyard, it would be exiled instead, so that really gums up the works as well.
Yeah.
So Boswell's going to confidently attack here with 2 5/6 Siege Rhinos. Of course, they have Trample and then the 4/4 Anafenza. And now Yurchick got to decide the best way to block. I believe he can make it out of this turn. Now, can he make it out of this turn with a good army? Well, that's another question entirely. But I believe he can make it out of this turn.
And keep in mind, if he can keep himself above 1 here, that Windswept Heath can yield a new draw. So he's not committed to drawing planes next turn. He gets another crack at it.
So now it's time to get into the phase of the game of what are my best blocks? How can I keep as much of my board intact as possible? Because at this point, Boswell with 2 cards left in hand. We know they're Boon Satyr and land. But if you're in Adam's position, you're not playing around a removal spell. You're not playing around Abzan Charm because you can't beat any of that stuff.
Right, it's too hard to block to play around all this. You have to commit, 7 points of toughness to each Siege Rhino or whatever to fully play around Abzan Charm. He's going to do the best that he can here. But I think at this stage he's not playing around very much.
Again, that manifest creature right now is a Fleece Main Lion. So Yurchick trying to put as many things as possible as he can in front of a Siege Rhino because he just wants to start getting some of Boswell's stuff off the board.
Yeah, it gets a little bit easier once 1 Siege Rhino is down.
That's why the second Siege Rhino was so good. Yurchick is happy enough with these blocks.
So he's going to be able to survive combat here through the Master of the Unseen trigger. Remains to be seen exactly how Boswell wants to assign blockers here. Both Whispered Elemental and the Fleece Main line would be nice to get off the table this turn.
See Boswell taking a look at Whispered Elemental. Wants to know exactly how this works, probably in combination with Anafenza. Of course, this is whenever this creature dies, manifest the top card of your library. That's the text on all the face-up non-token creatures. Assuming that Boswell does sacrifice his Whisperwood Elemental. But what's important here is that Boswell actually has to organize the blockers.
And yeah, again, it's a question now of does he want to get Whisperwood Elemental off the table, or does he want to get Fleece Mane off the table because it can go monstrous next turn and start absorbing a lot of damage?
5 life going to be gained. Yurchick going to go up to 8. And a bit of a shoulder shrug and says, well, feel free to assign your damage however you'd like. Siege Rhino is going to take care of Whisperwood Elemental. Of course, that will be exiled because Anafenza is in play, so we will get that. Those 2 creatures, exiled. Yurchick settles at 3. Now, you mentioned he has the ability to sacrifice Windswept Teeth here on the upkeep. Make sure he gets a different draw. It's interesting if he wants to do that or not.
Yep. You know, Plains is not a horrible draw here because, you know, the bottleneck right now in Mastery of the Unseen is white mana. But it looks like Yurchick's going to try to go again.
And he's going to search for a Plains right away. So he'll lose 1 from the Heath and gain 1 back, so he's going to stay at 3. And he will shuffle here. So a new card coming for a draw step. And he's trying his best to stabilize here.
Says a lot about this Abzan aggro deck to be able to play on from this spot while on the draw. Yurchick with a turn 3 Pelucranos. I mean, this had all the makings of a game where Boswell was just not really going to get to play. And it looks like he still might be able to squeeze this out.
Forest will be the draw now. I think it says a lot about both decks because Yurchick all of a sudden had to catch back up.
Yep. And now Yurchick before he draws, may want to manifest this Forest again to give himself a new look at it.
Looks like he'll just take it as a draw step, though. Let's take a look at the next card, Sylvan Caryatid.
And this is not bad here either because it's just another way to manifest, unmorph, and gain a bunch of life.
Master of the Unseen will manifest the Sylvan Caryatid. See the next card here, Whisperwood Elemental. Not bad. Do devotion count here, will Yurchick. What his Nykthos can add. 2 from Courser, 1 from Fleece Mane, 1 from Eldritch Mystic is 4 green, so it'll be +1. But sequencing and triggers right now is so important for Adam. You know, he's got a land in his hand that he hasn't played yet. He wants to, of course, play that and make sure he doesn't forget his Courser trigger and gain a life. Push himself up to 4. Figure out how he can gain as much life as possible during a turn. And you have to wonder if a card like Boonsater is on his radar here because it's not a card that's that popular in the format, and it's certainly not a card that's that popular in Abzan aggro.
Yeah.
And on a Trampler, it's pretty good.
From my position, I think Adam's best line of play is to try to figure out how to develop his board the most and leave himself with the ability to unmorph something.
Sure.
Because when he gets that cushion of 6, 7, 8 life, it allows him to, it just makes everything a lot easier to navigate going forward. And if he's able,
he's going to manifest here.
If he's able to unmorph the Caryatid, let's say, and then get that into the next turn, then all of a sudden he's unmorphing Whisperwood Elemental, and then the ball really starts to roll.
He's done a really nice job this turn because now he's going to unmorph here. He's going to gain himself some life. This will gain him 5, it looks like, so he's going to go up to 8. 3 toughness on Caryatid, certainly important. You saw him be able to put a land into play from the Courser on top of his deck. It means he'd have to put the land in his hand, which means he essentially drew a card. He's at 8. He's passing the turn back. This is where things get interesting. As Boswell's draw for the turn was Anafenza, that's really of no help. The Boonsater, though, is still quite good, and he's going to make this attack, which is pretty innocuous, and we're going to see just how Adam's going to block.
Exactly. I mean, you know, he may actually, if he knows that Boonsater's the last card, he may have to say something like Chump Block, Anafenza, throw everything else in front of the Rhino. But that's a hard block to make here. Again, you may be playing around one removal spell, or you're necessarily playing around Boonsater.
Again, Boonsater is not a card that you see in Abzan aggro deck list all that much. You might see one here and there. It's you know, of medium popularity in the format. It's not a card that really jumps to mind in a situation like this.
Now, Boon Satyr is approximately the same thing as a removal spell insofar as they're both worth 4 damage. A removal spell would remove Courser of Krufix during blockers. Assuming that's in front of the Siege Rhino, that's 4 damage. And Boon Satyr, of course, is +4. But this is still a challenging block.
If you throw Boon Satyr's Bestow into things right now, you can say that Siege Rhino is a 10 power creature.
Yep.
4 original power, 2 counters from Mana Fenza is 6, +4 from Boon Satyr, so it's a 10 power creature.
And even if Boswell doesn't win the game this turn, he may deteriorate enough of Yurchick's board where he doesn't have enough mana to play around with next turn, and the Siege Rhino the following turn can get the job done.
I think that's the goal.
Because if Whisperwood Elemental, the face-down manifest Whisperwood Elemental gets involved in combat, and the Courser gets involved, and both of them die, now all of a sudden Yurchick's down a lot of mana via Nykthos. He's down a lot of life gain.
It looks like he's putting a lot of creatures on Mana Fenza. Maybe not.
So this is the spot where Boon Satyr may be significant. If Yurchick is trying to chump block the Siege Rhino with the Caryatid, assuming that's safe because the Caryatid can't die, that's where Boon Satyr might trip him up here a little bit.
Yep. And these blocks are so tough. Because now Boswell, he gets to pounce. Yurchick making a huge block there at Anafenza and only a small block on the Siege Rhino. The thought process here from Adam is, okay, I get your Anafenza off the table. Your Siege Rhino is a 6 power creature. 6 minus 3 is 3. You can eat my Caryatid, I don't mind. Now, what's also interesting here is that you tick up the Rhino, right? You bestow under the Rhino, it's a 10 power creature. 10 minus 3 is 7.
Right. This is a great block.
This is actually a pretty good block.
It plays around a removal spell and Boon Satyr with very few blocks can do. I think it's possible Boswell will actually put the Boon Satyr on the Anafenza here and try to clear out a lot of Yurchick's board because he can only send him to 1 here. You have to imagine if Yurchick gets into next turn with a lot of mana, Mastery of the Unseen will provide him enough juice to be able to overpower even your enormous Siege Rhino. If you clear out a lot of his board, you've still got a 6/7 Siege Rhino. He doesn't have that much mana. The Boon Satyr will be a card in play.
It's a pretty good block.
Now, the other problem with Boon Satyr here on Anafenza is Yurchick has 9 toughness in front of Anafenza, so you don't kill everything.
Nope, you kill some things. Keep in mind as well, if Boswell's going to bestow Anafenza, that's his entire turn.
Yeah.
Obviously. And Anafenza will die, and a Boon Satyr will be left over, and it's much easier to deal with a 2 toughness creature in this situation for Yurchick.
For sure. The other reason, the other thing to bear in mind is I believe Boswell's draw this turn was Anafenza.
It was.
Which is a bit of an incentive to just kind of let stuff trade off, deal some damage, and then maybe redeploy another Anafenza.
Well, he's reaching. It's Boon Satyr time. He'll have to take 1. And the question is, what's it going to go on? So it's going to go on Anafenza. So now Anafenza is now going to become an 8/6.
And I like this play a lot from Andrew. It's not, I think that a lot of people's instinct would just be do the most aggressive thing, just get your Siege Rhino as big as possible. But I think if you allow Yurchick to keep his board intact and go to the next turn with a lot of mana, he's going to be able to overpower that.
Now Caryatid's going to bite the dust too. And now you see the board that's left over. Yurchick's planes will be turned face down. And we're all good now. Now Adam on his upkeep might manifest the planes.
Yeah, keep in mind he knows that one is a land from the Courser reveal earlier.
But he knows nothing after that.
Correct. Past this, he knows nothing.
So he will manifest the planes. Now we'll take a draw step. Didn't get a great look. But he is starting to reach around for some mana a little bit. There's a forest. If he wants to manifest again with Master of the Unseen, it'll be a little bit difficult. Mana Confluence works its way into the equation a little bit. Nykthos, of course, can generate some white mana. That's 5. Maybe a little Fleece mainline monstrous action. Nope, just a really good draw instead.
Yeah, not shabby.
Whisperwood Elemental. He'll put a Morph in. We don't know what that one is. The only one who does is Adam. Now, again, one of those manifest creatures is a Plains. Boswell knows that. The other one, that's anyone's best guess, as Boswell has just drawn another Siege Rhino. That'll change some things.
This is a pretty good game to start off the day.
It's not a bad game to start the day.
A lot going on here. A lot of rips back and forth. And for those people out there who say, oh, Magic Creature Combat's just so simple and straightforward and these games are so stupid, watch games like this.
My favorite part of the game.
These kind of games don't exist when it's a bunch of counter spells and discard spells in each other's deck.
Yeah.
Yurchick's block last turn with the...
It's fantastic.
With the carry out in front of the Rhino was perfect.
It's fantastic. There are the blocks. A bunch of stuff getting in front of Siege Rhino. Boon Satyr being chump blocked by Elvish Mystic. Now you got to wonder what that morph is, because, you know, if it's, for example, an Elvish Mystic or something, boy, does that make things tough.
I think Boswell just has to order blockers to get Whisperwood Elemental off the table and the manifest creature he does not know about.
Instead of the one that he does.
Leave the Plains,
Okay.
because that doesn't unmorph into anything of substance.
Okay.
But there's a lot of just random 4 or 5 mana creatures that other thing could be right now, and you got to get off the table while you can.
Sure, and that's the route he's going now. At least it looks that way. And it looks like he's changing it up. Creature combat is tough. If you're not familiar with positions like this, and this is a lot of what, you know, you don't see this a ton in Constructed.
There's not a lot of quadruple blocking turn after turn in Constructed.
Yeah, it doesn't
Very
happen
rare.
a lot. You know, you'll see it more in Limited than Constructed, but if it's something you're good at, it is a very useful technique. So it's a Temple of Plenty. So Yurchick's board gets whittled down a little bit yet again. Yurchick's probably feeling, okay, I've dealt with this problem. Well, not quite. Another Siege Rhino, 20-1. Back at him is the way we go. No Courser in play, doesn't know the top card of his deck. He's going to move Mana Confluence over to the side. Not going to be reaching for that one anytime soon. Take a draw step.
But the Mana Confluence could get turned on again. Mastery Unseen, Courser, Crewfix. He's got some life gain in his deck, so
Absolutely.
it's not permanently shut off. But for the time being, he's got to find something else to do.
He's tapping 5 mana again. He's going to activate Monstrosity on Fleece Mainline. And now, Voyaging Satyr. Pass the turn back.
So Fleece Mainline going Monstrous means he blocks out this turn for sure.
Yep.
He's got 4 points of toughness to put in front of the Siege Rhino.
Whew. Boon Satyr, the draw here from Boswell.
I would be really surprised if Adam blocked in such a way to not die here. I actually don't think he can.
I don't even think he can.
Because he has to put something in front of Boon Satyr.
Yep.
And then Fleece Mainline plus X goes in front of Siege Rhino. Boon Satyr plays over the top.
Yep. Some pretty good draw steps here for both players.
This game has swung back and forth.
Yep.
We freeze the game state, who you think is winning. This game has bounced back and forth more than any game that I've watched so far this tournament.
Yeah, me too. Because this is the turn I thought, this was the turn where Boswell had to peel.
Right.
For the most part. If Boswell draws a land this turn, I actually think the game just gets away from him.
It starts getting messy. I mean, he's got a little bit of time to find something,
Yeah.
but it's bad.
Because he has no good, oh wow, what a timely top deck with the Boon Satyr. Because if he just draws nothing that turn, he's got no good attacks because Fleece Mainline's a 4/4. You mentioned, you know, the manifest creature can go in front of the Boon Satyr, the Fleece Mainline, the Voyaging Satyr can go in front of the Rhino, then Yurchick's untapping with Mastery of the Unseen, maybe gaining some life, going up to 6, who knows what. Instead, Boon Satyr's going to be bestowed on a trampling creature. And 8, you subtract 4 from the Fleece Main, you subtract 2 from the manifest creature. Yurchick will show the plains, and we are going to head on to game number 2. Andrew Boswell is going to win game 1 here over Adam Yurchick. Obs on aggro, up a game here over Green-White Devotion, and what was one hell of a game to kick off day 2.
Yeah, that was great. I thought that Boswell might have been dead on turn number 3. I thought that Yurchick was dead several times in the intervening turns. I thought Yurchick had finally stabilized the game, and then one last draw step there from Boswell, able to just get across the finish line before Yurchick would start untapping and doing some crazy stuff.
Very well played on both sides as we take a look at the sideboards now. We will start with Adam Yurchick and his green-white devotion deck. What's he got there?
4 copies of Boon Satyr, 3 copies of Valorous Stance, 3 copies of Glare of Heresy, 2 copies of Reclamation Sage, a Ajani Mentor of Heroes, a Nissa Worldwaker, and an Elspeth Sun's Champion. Really big fan of the copies of Valorous Stance and Glare of Heresy here. Very helpful against a lot of the creatures that Boswell brings to the table. I think the Ajani and the Elspeth are also pretty well suited for this matchup. Yurchick can kind of situate himself as a control deck. Nissa is a little bit slow. He may just want another Planeswalker, just accelerating to more 4/4s, but I definitely like Ajani and Elspeth.
Other side of things, I've got 4 Thoughtseizes, 3 Nissa Worldwakers, 3 Drown in Sorrow, 2 Glare of Heresy, 2 Back to Nature, and a Murderous Cut on Boswell's side. What do we like there?
Definitely like the 1 copy of Murderous Cut. I think the 4 copies of Thoughtseize are fine for this matchup. It's not a matchup where you would think that Thoughtseize would be at its best, but these green devotion decks often have hands of all setup and very little action, or vice versa. So Thoughtseize can be very good there.
Well, these players are going to go to the sideboards. They're going to get ready for game 2. Go ahead.
I think Drown in Sorrow could be good in this matchup too. I think it's like on the fence against green devotion strategies, and the fact that there's so much manifesting going on might push it over the edge.
I think it can be okay. I think it's the issue I've had with Drown in Sorrow in other matchups. It's just, you know, timing is everything with the card. So, and I don't like a card that's good in some situations and bad in others.
So if that's your position, what are you thinking about Back to Nature? Because Back to Nature can also handle Master the Unseen, also handles Banishing Light, gets Courser Crufix, maybe some other stray enchantments.
I'm okay with it. I mean, is Master the Unseen something we have to deal with?
I think it's pretty bad for Boswell. I mean, he was able to play through it that game, but things had to break pretty specifically for him to be able to play through it.
Sure.
I think if he misses 1 Boon Satyr draw or 1 Siege Runner draw, that Mastery of the Unseen just runs away with it. And it's not like it only answers Mastery of the Unseen. There's Banishing Light, there's Courser Crufix as well. So I think that card is reasonable here.
Well, we're going to see how things do break down as far as sideboarding is concerned. But for those of you unfamiliar with Abzan Aggro, we actually sat down with Brian Braunduin. He did a standard deck primer on the deck for you guys. So check this out, and then we'll be watching game number 2 in just a second.
Abzan Aggro is a white-black-green deck that plays quick, powerful threats and looks to win the game by simply outclassing the opponent with better creatures, hand disruption, and versatile removal spells. Fleet's Main Line and Rakshasa Death Dealer are powerful 2-drops that get better as the game progresses, and Anaphens of the Foremost provides a big body and 2 relevant effects. Top-end threats like Siege Rhino, Wingmate Rock, or Whisperwood can simply be better than anything your opponent can muster, especially when backed up by Heroes Downfall, Abzan Charm, or Thoughtseize. Abzan Aggro struggles against decks like Red-White, which present powerful and hasty threats while having a slew of effective removal spells. Devotion decks can also be a problem by presenting enough big creatures to hold down the fort while weathering the storm of removal spells.
Well, I can only hope that game number 2 is as good as the first.
It's going to be hard to live up to that.
Pretty tough.
That game was great.
Pretty tough. These guys aren't 9-0 on accident, that's for sure. And you see, they're both going back and forth to the drawing board. I'm sure you've been here before, you know, just because I know that I have. Just, you know, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know what level my opponent's on. I'm not entirely sure what they're boarding in, hemming and hawing and trying to figure out exactly the perfect 60 for game 2. Who even knows?
The decks I play actually are usually pretty straightforward.
Okay, fair enough.
Usually when I'm in spots where I'm thinking a lot about sideboarding, it's because it's a spot where it's something along the lines of I have 12 horrendous cards in my main deck and only 6 cards I can rationalize bringing in. So what do I do here?
You've played some pretty bad decks.
They don't let you present. they don't let you present 54, so I'm not sure.
Well, not with that attitude.
Well, they just actually don't let you do that.
Oh, okay.
That's cheating.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
59 cards, that's maybe his mistake. 54 cards, probably cheating.
We'd like to talk with you for a moment, sir.
Sir, this wasn't even close.
Yeah. Adam Yurchick will be on the play here for game number 2. After losing a very close game number 1, you can see the clock there, about 16 minutes here for the players. Don't have a lot of time. The matchup can take a little while, as we saw for game number 1. Things got very complicated. Yurchick's going to keep, however. He'll start things off with a Temple of Plenty. Top card going to stay on top. We're going to go back Boswell's way. Boswell draws a Sandstep Citadel. He'll play one of the two he has in his hand. He'll pass the turn back. Yurchick will draw. It's a forest. It's a Fleeceman Lion. And we're going to head back Boswell's way. Boswell will draw a copy of Siege Rhino. See a hand with Caves of Koilos. Sandstep Citadel as well. Also a Llanowar Waste. Fleeceman Lion here for Boswell too. Turn 3 for Yurchick. Very quickly attacking. Will we have a trade? We will. Nykthos. Courser's going to be good. Carry at it in passing.
So I like the block a lot there from Boswell, even though he's the aggressor in the matchup, because Yurchick has so many ways to invalidate a Fleeceman Lion, and Yurchick going monsters with his Fleeceman Lion is a big concern. So even though it looks odd, you would think Boswell wants a damage race here. Yurchick has a lot of ways to shut down that Fleeceman Lion in a pretty trivial fashion in a turn or two.
And offensive here for Boswell. Has to take 2 to cast it. We head back Yurchick's way. Carry out of the draw. Top card of the deck is a Pelucranos. Valorous Stance will take care of that. Manic Influence will gain Yurchick a life. Then he'll take 1. Looks like another Fleeceman Lion and attack for Courser. Good start here for Adam.
Yeah, oddly enough, situating himself as the beatdown deck, and not a bad spot to be in with Pelucranos on top, and Boswell leaning on a lot of pain lands to cast his spells.
Boswell's 4th land. That's a Manic Influence. Looks like he's going to have to take 2 here to play a Siege Rhino. He'll gain 3 back. He'll go up to 16. Adam, he'll go down to 17. Yurchick quickly untapping, drawing Pelucranos for the turn. We'll see what the top of his deck nets. It's a copy of Master of the Unseen, a card that almost got him back into game number 1. Could be a pretty good draw here for game number 2.
That was a big spot for land number 5. Because if he can go monsters with Fleeceman Lion, then attacking and blocking gets so much easier for him the rest of the game.
Yeah. Doesn't have land number 5, though. Just has to take some damage to play a Pelucranos and pass the turn back. But keep in mind, while he doesn't have land number 5 and did have to take some damage there, Nykthos is starting to be turned on now.
Yep. So Boswell with some removal in hand, looks like Hero's Downfall and Valorous Stance, so he can pick apart a little bit of this board. I would assume getting Pelucranos off the table is priority number 1.
Probably not a bad start. There's Valorous Stance. That'll take care of that. Siege Rhino's ready to come in. Oh, this is interesting. Could have snapped him off with a double block.
I mean, that's a recipe to lose to a number of cards.
Oh, well, you're not wrong. You see Boswell's hand, he doesn't have anything.
Yeah,
His hand's Death Dealer and Downfall.
But it could be something.
Yep. I mean, I love the attack from the boss.
Yeah. I mean, it is risky, but Yurchick blocking there is just... If he double blocks and Boswell goes, all right, Bioblight, your Fleeceman Lion, the game's over, match is over.
You lose the game.
Right.
Yeah.
No reason to take a risk that big right now with Nykthos and Courser in play. He's not that far away from being able to generate a lot of mana and work around the Siege Rhino in another way.
I would have snapped him off. No, I don't think even I could. It would have been too tough.
It's a risky, to put it mildly, a risky double block.
Fleeceman Lions will trade. We're going to head back Boswell's way. He's got his Siege Rhino. He's got a Hero's Downfall and a Death Dealer in hand. Manic Influence was the draw.
I mean, Boswell can really go on the offensive here if he takes care of the Courser via Hero's Downfall. He knows the next draw step is dead. It's just a second copy of Mastery Unseen. Yurchick will be without 6 mana, so he can't play the second Mastery and make a token in the same turn. You have a Death Dealer to follow up, which is going to be huge. I think that Boswell could just push him out of the game here.
Yeah, he's going to cast Hero's Downfall there. He'll have to take 2 to play Death Dealer here. And he'll pass the turn back again, knowing that Yurchick's going to draw Master of the Unseen. That is the draw step. Well, we're going to see just how good Whisperwood Elemental is right now. Adam's going to get the Manifest. He has to take 1 to cast that. Pass that turn back. It's 6 to 12. Boswell will take a draw step. It's a Fleece main line. Time to get in the red zone. And clearly, Yurchick has some blocking to do, and they're not great blocks.
I think he just has to. Yeah, this is the only block he can do. He can chump block the Death Dealer, but he can't do anything productive about the Rhino right now. So.
There's the activation on Death Dealer. It can be either one. They'll both work. Forest goes to the bin. There's a land. Here comes Fleece Main. We're heading back Yurchick's way.
Fleece Main significant because it is now also lethal. There's a 3rd lethal creature in play, one of which has Trample.
Temple of Plenty here from Yurchick. Top card very quickly goes to the bottom. Trigger here. Pass the turn there. He needs something that he can unmorph. This could get hairy, depending on what that manifest creature is.
Oh, there's some big ones.
Yeah.
There's some big ones. The problem is that blocking is really complicated in any case because all these creatures present different problems. Death Dealer is huge. Fleece Main monster line can go monstrous. Siege Rhino tramples. So even if Yurchick hits something good, he still doesn't have clean blocks.
Land number 7 there's a pretty good one for Boswell too. Yurchick's going to do some unmorphing.
Now, if it's Pelucranos, then we got something going.
It looks like he's just going to activate Master of the Unseen.
He was paying 4 there. I thought it was possible.
I thought it was too.
Pelucranos being the card there. Now you have a 5/5 blocker for Siege Rhino. You gain some life. That could definitely turn the game around.
But land number 7 there for Boswell is so good because he can activate the Monstrosity on Fleece main line and pump with the Death Dealer. Or regenerate with the Death Dealer.
Yeah, it's just very, very hard for Yurchick to block. He's basically looking at a triple chump block.
Things do get a little bit interesting if one of these manifest creatures is an Elvish Mystic.
Yeah, that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yep. There's the blocks. Boswell says, I'll put Wishwood Elemental first. Death Dealer will have an activation. Damage will resolve. Nykthos, one of the morphs. All right, let's see what Yurchick can draw this turn. He's got 1 manifest creature in play. He's got a Mana Confluence and he's moving to the side so he doesn't tap it.
Right now, Master of the Unseen is not a solution. I mean, this turn he would get to chump block twice, but then the next turn he's facing lethal.
Yep. Pass it back. Boswell will sacrifice.
It's going to be a painful monstrosity.
To say the least.
Take a little bit of damage.
Just for a +1/+1 counter.
So Boswell is now falling to 7 here. He hasn't been attacked this game, right? He hasn't taken damage in combat.
I think maybe. No, I actually
traded
don't.
Fleece main line.
Yeah, I don't think he's taking a hit.
So 13 dealt to himself.
Hey, whatever it takes to win a game.
I'm sure that's not a record for Boswell in this tournament.
Probably not. Red zone.
Keep him coming.
Manifest. Block them both. Pump with the Death Dealer. Both creatures will bite the dust. One's Fleece main, other one is Forest. And Boswell even has a follow-up here, Warren of the first tree. And that, If it wasn't over before, it's probably over now.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any catching up.
Yurchick will draw a card. And he will extend the hand. Andrew Boswell is going to win this match here over Adam Yurchick. 2-0. Obs on Aggro will take care of Green-White Devotion. And for the Boz, it's his tournament so far. He's in first place, 10-0.
I thought that the matchup was bad. I thought both